They say beauty is a blessing and a curse. In a palace of fading splendor, a widowed queen gazed upon her only daughter, whose face seemed carved from moonlight and whose eyes held the promise of kingdoms. Suitors came, kings bowed, yet none could claim her, for the crown of her heart remained untouched. Fear gnawed at the queen, whispering that even this shining child could not escape the cruelty of fate. In desperation, she sought counsel in a land of endless sand, where the desert winds carried secrets and the shadows of magic. There, a diminutive, a golden-eyed figure awaited, a being small in stature, monstrous in desire, offering salvation at a price that would haunt generations. Tonight, we enter a tale of dark bargains, twisted love, and inevitable doom. The haunting and tragic story of the Yellow Dwarf. The queen's heart trembled beneath the weight of her own desire. Her daughter's beauty, radiant and untouchable, had become a source of fear rather than joy. Kings had come, jewels in hand, promises on their lips. Yet each one faltered before the impossible radiance of the princess. Night after night, the queen wept alone in her chamber, the flickering candlelight casting long, twisted shadows on the walls, as if the house itself mourned with her. In her desperation, she sought the counsel of the fabled fairy of the desert, a being as ancient as the shifting sands and as merciless as the sun's scorching gaze. She carried with her a cape, enchanted to protect her from the feral lions that prowled the fairy's domain. Yet even this talisman failed her. As the beast's golden eyes glimmered in the distance, a small figure appeared, the Yellow Dwarf. His stature was pitiful, yet his presence was monstrous, eyes burning like molten gold, every movement deliberate and sinister. He offered her salvation, his voice a whisper of doom, her daughter's hand in marriage, in exchange for life itself. The queen, terror coiling around her ribs, agreed, the words tasting bitter and iron heavy on her tongue. As the dwarves' laughter echoed across the desert winds, the queen felt a chill that no fire could warm. She had bargained for safety, yet the price promised shadows over her child's future, a darkness that would not be lifted, even by love. The princess, unaware of the shadows lurking behind her mother's fearful eyes, wandered through the castle halls, her heart light with curiosity and hope. She had heard whispers of the desert, of a fairy with powers beyond mortal comprehension. Yet the danger seemed distant, almost like a story told to hush restless children. But fate moves with quiet insistence, and soon the past she had never known caught up with her. Venturing into the desert, the wind carrying the scent of scorched sand and whispered omens, she approached the lair of the fairy of the desert. Lions, their golden eyes glinting like molten metal in the heat of the sun, circled the path, a living warning of the peril that awaited. And there, amid the shifting sands, the Yellow Dwarf emerged, small and grotesque. His golden eyes burned with obsession. a hunger that no promise of wealth or beauty could ever satiate. He revealed the secret of her mother's bargain, the words twisting in her chest like knives. The princess, proud and defiant, wished to refuse, to escape this dark destiny. But the lions, silent and lethal, advanced. Terror seized her, the desert wind a cold hand against her back, and she whispered the words that would bind her fate. She agreed, her voice trembling, her spirit trembling beneath the weight of inevitability. The dwarf's grin, cruel and triumphant, glimmered as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over a destiny already stained with sorrow. The castle gleamed with gold and laughter, a fragile illusion of joy that the desert winds could not touch. The princess, radiant and serene, walked toward her destiny, her delicate hands clasped around the embroidered train of her gown. The king of the gold mines, his heart alight with hope, awaited her beneath the arches of the grand hall. Outside, banners fluttered in the wind, and the scent of blooming flowers mingled with the lingering chill of a world yet untouched by sorrow. For a fleeting moment, it seemed as if happiness might bloom, fragile yet defiant, against the shadow that had stalked them since birth. But fate has a way of unraveling beauty with silent, merciless precision. The doors of the hall burst open, echoing through the marble chambers like the growl of a storm. The fairy of the desert appeared, her eyes glinting with unnatural light, followed closely by the yellow dwarf, whose tiny frame belied the monstrous fury within. Chaos erupted. The bride screamed, the courtiers scattered, and the king reached for a sword that could not defend against magic. In a blur of movement, the dwarf seized the princess, vanishing in a swirl of shadow and sand, while the fairy claimed the king, carrying him away to a prison built from desire and cruel fascination. The hall fell silent, save for the distant echo of their vanishing cries and the swish of flowing silk. The golden chandeliers trembled as if they too had witnessed the rupture of hope. In that moment, the fragile dream of love and union shattered, leaving behind only dread, betrayal, and the chilling certainty that no mortal joy could survive the whims of supernatural obsession. The king awoke to a world transformed, a prison of unnatural beauty that gleamed with impossible light. The fairy of the desert, radiant yet monstrous in her perfection, loomed over him, her eyes a storm of desire and fury. Her voice, smooth and hypnotic, promised comfort, yet every word dripped with the subtle cruelty of one who controls another's fate. He saw her human form, flawless and alluring, but her feet remained the truth of her deception, twisted and unyielding. He knew then that love could not exist where chains were invisible, yet inescapable. Defiance stirred within him, a flame that no magic could extinguish. "I will only love you," he told her, his voice steady despite the weight of enchantment pressing down upon him. "If you set me free," the fairy's smile faltered, a crack in her flawless facade. And for a moment, the glittering cage of her power seemed fragile. With a sign that rippled like a desert wind, she freed him, carrying him across the sky to her distant castle, the wind howling like a warning over the waves below. Unseen by her, the princess gazed from her tower, her heart twisting with fear and longing as the threads of misunderstanding wove tighter around them both. By the edge of the sea, where silver waves licked jagged rocks, a mermaid emerged, sorrow etched into her eyes. She left behind enchanted sea rushes, illusions to resemble the king's form, and in their place, a chance for escape. In her hand gleamed a sword, wrought of moonlight and magic, a weapon that could cut through beasts and spells alike. With a final mournful glance toward the desert horizon, the king took the sword, ready to fight through the darkness and reclaim both the princess and the fragile hope of love that remained. The king pressed onward, his heart a furnace of determination and dread. The sword of moonlight clutched tight in his hands. Ahead, monstrous guardians awaited, sphinxes with riddles that could crush the mind, dragons whose scales shimmered like molten metal, and maidens garlanded in flowers whose beauty masked a deadly resolve. Each step was a test of courage and love, the desert winds whispering warnings through jagged cliffs and shadowed valleys. The princess, unaware of the peril closing in, waited, her heart trembling with a mixture of hope and fear. Through trials of teeth, claw, and cunning, the king carved a path of determination, tearing through garlands and illusions alike. At last, he reached her, and their reunion was a fragile balm against the cruel designs of fate. For a moment, love seemed poised to triumph, fragile yet brilliant against the darkness that had shadowed them from birth. But the yellow dwarf, relentless in his jealousy and fury, emerged from the shifting sands. His laughter cut through the air, a bitter echo of all that was lost. Without hesitation, he struck the king down, a cruel finality in every motion. The princess, stricken with grief, collapsed beside him, her life extinguished by sorrow as swiftly as his had been stolen by malice. The mermaid, witnessing the horror, wept tears that turned to silver rain. With sorrowful magic, she transformed their bodies into twin palm trees, rooted forever by the sea, swaying in silence. The desert and the waves bore witness to a love destroyed, a promise broken, and a fate sealed by cruelty, obsession, and the dark bargains of those who dare tamper with forces beyond comprehension. The tale of the Yellow Dwarf is more than a story of love and loss. It is a testament to the peril of bargains made in fear and the cruelty that can lurk behind beauty and desire. A queen's desperation, a daughter's innocence, and a king's devotion were all swept away by the obsessions of beings who saw hearts not as treasures, but as possessions. Kings, dwarves, and fairies alike wielded power without mercy, leaving only sorrow in their wake. In the end, the lovers' bodies became two silent palm trees, rooted by the sea, swaying with the wind and whispering of what once was. Their story, suspended between hope and horror, remains a warning that love and life can be twisted by desire, jealousy, and dark magic. If you enjoyed this haunting tale, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves the eerie and mystical. And as always, don't forget to look beyond the fog.